I certainly do, Valen, and it's one that affects every family in the country, because across South Africa, social media feeds have been flooded with purple profile pictures this week. And it's far from being just a trend. The wave is part of a powerful campaign by an organization called Women for Change. They are urging citizens to turn their avatars purple in solidarity with victims of gender-based violence and femicide, and demanding that the crisis be declared a national disaster. It's triggered by alarming stats of women being murdered every few hours, sexual assault reports soaring, and a feeling of systemic failure. The campaign is using purple as their symbol of dignity, justice, and remembrance. Let's bring in the Deputy Minister of Women, Youth and Persons with Disabilities, Steve Letsike. Good morning to you, Steve, and welcome to the program. I've got in front of me the Sowetan and their headline again this morning, just an album of women who have been killed, who have been maimed and engulfed in GBV violence in South Africa. I wanted to get your thoughts on their call for this to be declared a national disaster. Welcome to the program, by the way.
Good morning to you, Iman, and really good morning to the viewers. Indeed, GBV is not just a social issue. It is an emergency. It's a national emergency. It undermines democracy, economy. It really undermines human dignity. And every single day, the statistics that we have in South Africa are really showing us this social fabric that is broken in many ways. And this is indeed the call that is being made by Women for Change, by many organizations, and, have been really instrumental in terms of calling everybody to do so. But that's a very same call that as government, we have always believed in, that we put programs in terms of responses, but also society must change the behavior in how it treats, women, children, persons with disability or LGBTI. So the relevance of calling it for disaster, it's about an emergency that every society or member of society must act. This is not just a private matter.
But they're making a very clear call for the president to declare it a national disaster, which is different to what you've just shared with us.
Iman, I think we must be alive to the reality that, President in 2021 pronounced GBV as a second pandemic since after the COVID-19. And I think it's struck by the many numbers that we've been seeing. And even what Women for Change is calling for, it's exactly the fact that SAPS recorded so many deaths. 5,578 women were killed, murdered. 1,650 children were murdered. And this is in the hands of partners, in the hands of community members who are supposed to be protecting people. And we've got cases, 10,000. So when you then say it's a pandemic, it's about the actions that we all have been looking into, and what the process of governments declaring it and government's action. And I think we need to maybe possibly look at some of the programs or some of the work that government has done. And this was surrounded around survivor-centered approaches, and also then saying the prevention effort that must be put. So whether you're talking about establishment of Tutuzela care centers across the country that are integrated medical, legal, and psychosocial care. Now, those are services that are there, rapid response teams, and whether you're looking at economic programs that are put forward.
Yeah.
But at the same time, the prevention must happen at home. It must happen at communities. And to declare it, absolutely you can make use of the Disaster Management Act, but at the same time, we need to put the effort where are needed.
I hear the passion in your voice, but for the women who are raising the charge, they're saying whatever has been put in place is not working. The National Disaster Management Centre, who's now also rejected this call for GBV to be declared a national disaster, they don't believe is effective enough. They're asking questions about the 21 billion rand that's been allocated to the National Strategic Plan on GBV, but those plans haven't borne the kind of fruit that they want to see in South African society. I hear what you say, that government has done something. Will you admit that government simply hasn't done enough? Or what government has done is not working?
You know, Iman, I think it's quite important because this issue is complex, including when we ask about government's role. Government spends, based also on KPMG report, 45 billion to respond to gender-based violence in the country. I do think whether we have to speak about effective coordination and national efforts that brings everybody together. This is not only just a government responsibility, it's also a society responsibility. The effectiveness, you will see it when we prevent. And indeed, so true that we're going to say, if something is not working, or if something is working rather, we will see it by virtue of changes that are happening. I share the same view in terms of effective coordination. Resources must be spent where they are most needed. And this is really about coordination. The responsibility that, even President discharged by making sure that the laws, including gender-based violence council, must be established. All of those things require resources. And indeed, so far, we have not even seen particularly, enough resources that goes to the work around coordination and monitoring. That's a reality of even of our department, for that matter. That you are not seeing the proper coordination, but there is work that is taking place. But I want to emphasize, Iman, that I would want us as South Africa, where we face the truth about the nature of gender-based violence, policies, laws, programs that are put in place must also be matched by the change of action. The first stop and prevention effort of gender-based violence starts with it in our communities. And it's men who must stop. It's women who must stop enabling. It is society that also must help us to deal with gender-based violence.
When you say women should stop enabling, what do you mean?
I am raising this, to acknowledge that social fabric. When I say men, I start with men having to stop to rape. But we've had a number of cases and reports, that also speaks about, number of women that hides men who are their husbands, their boyfriends, their sons, who must be held accountable for that matter. So this is not in the case of victims or survivors for that matter. I'm really talking about women who participate in accepting these conditions in society. And everybody must be held accountable for that matter.
Again, I'm just trying to take that statement in, the last one about women, and we find this happening where it is the targeted community that is then charged with the responsibility in some part for resolving the issue. There are power plays that exist in those relationships. There are well documented reasons for the kind of behavior that keeps women silent and continues to victimize women. So I'm not sure how that statement that you've made is going to go down in society, in placing the liability for changing behavior, a portion of that on women.
I don't think, let me make myself clear, because indeed gender-based violence thrive on silence, on stigma, and many of these incidents occur behind closed door. This statement that I've made should not suggest anyway I'm talking about victims or survivors. I am saying this whole of society. When I say men, women, people with disability, LGBT, everybody must take responsibility, including organizations that works. The victims often fear reporting, and this is not on victims. I'm saying the members of society, that when somebody is being accused, whether the allegations are true or not, they must be tested against our law. This is where we need justice. it cannot be that society hides perpetrators or society don't take out perpetrators to account. We've got a big issue. Out of 9 women who reports rape, one gets to out of 9 women who are raped, only one gets to report. And even this one doesn't reach the level of conviction, Iman. And a lot of time when we follow the cases and so forth, society also is at play. We need society to come out. I was in Atteridgeville, Pretoria West the other day, and the person who killed a young woman, Tsofato, whose body was found in the cemetery, included the family members that says, oh no, the perpetrator was here, not around, and they hit him until we got the police to act swiftly. So I am just really raising this around how reliable can we be on society? So this is not a blame or a burden. I'm just raising issues around that are complex and that we are dealing with, and we depend also justice and police will also depend on society.
Fikile Mbalula, the ANC's Fikile Mbalula said GBV must be resolved by us and suggested that the ANC prefers that this not be highlighted at the G20 summit. And I'm talking about the protest that is being planned by Women for Change. They determined to go ahead on the 21st, ahead of the G20. Do you think, and of course the ANC is part of government, do you think asking women to mute their pain for the sake of an international event or international appearances is taking gender-based violence seriously, in your view?
Iman, I don't believe that. I believe women, I believe, communities must voice concerns. This is a shared struggle. What has been put forward, even by the ministry when we called when they were here. We were in charge and responsible for the empowerment of women's working group. The third priority we had amongst the other 3 was the issue of gender-based violence and femicide. Our government has put gender-based violence in the heart of the G20 agenda. It's a global issue. This is not only affecting South Africa. So I don't believe women must be silent. I don't believe governments who are meeting must be silent, because this is a global pandemic that's affecting member countries of G20, and all governments must act, not only just by policy or programs. Governments must act in also putting resources to respond to the magnitude. Citizens of G20 countries are citizens that must feel, the support of government. So what we have done as government and departments is to really respond, and we believe that this is a very much important conversation. Indeed, also the issue of protest, and I think we've seen purple change, calls of purple profiles, but also people coming out in numbers. This is a way where community and society communicates their dissatisfaction. And I think we have to listen. Government that listen is also a government that also takes into consideration people's priority.
Well, if you listen, are you going to stand shoulder to shoulder with those women on the 21st? Will the ministry support that march?
Government does support the women who are speaking out. Yesterday, the ministers that gathered, including Minister Chikunga from our department, Minister Tlhabisa from Kokta, met with several groups that included Women for Change, ANC Women's League, Positive Women's Movement. We will stand with our people. We are a government that cares, Iman. And I think it's important to realize that the voice is not just to listen to women, but also to walk this journey to save lives. And I will be there with women to really take this moment to say that we will work together as a whole of society. President Ramaphosa did say we need a whole of society to respond to GBV, and that's exactly what we are doing.
So do you endorse their march, is what I'm asking? Does it have your support?
I have spoken publicly about it, and I'm speaking about it now. I stand with survivors in my capacity also as Deputy Minister, and I will join women, because this is not a Women for Change thing. It's a South African issue.
All right.
Color Purple has history to it. As an activist myself as well, Color purple is around women's rights, and it's also about feminism. And we need to stand one in one together to really ensure that GBV ends in South Africa.
Steve Letsike, thank you for talking to us this morning, the Deputy Minister for Women and Children. We go straight to a break. I'll see you straight after.